Cloudcast Media.
Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. What an honor is it to have in the studio with us today Jim Hurley. He is the treasurer of the Robert Frost Society. Jim, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me. A real pleasure, Drew.
Oh my goodness, the pleasure is all ours. Joined by my co-host, Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers, Inc. They know each other, and they are celebrating their 20th anniversary in Liberty Station this year. And Kristen, how appropriate is it for you to be co-hosting with Jim in this great Robert Frost Society?
Hey, you know I love it when you bring all the arts and culture, and especially the writers and poets and all of that good stuff. So thanks for doing that for me.
It's your orbit. I know you have a question for Jim.
I do. I wonder if we could just get right into what the mission of the Robert Frost Society is.
Of course, we have a specific mission coming up in March with the Robert Frost Sesquicentennial, which most of your listeners know is a fancy way of saying 150 years since Robert Frost was born. But the Frost Society was originally organized in 1971 to foster the legacy of Robert Frost as one of America's, if not America's, most iconic and most revered poet. But the society has changed over time, and most particularly in the last 5 years, because we brought the society to a permanent home at the San Diego Central Library 5 years ago. And so the character of the society has intentionally changed from an academic focus where the society was concerned itself mostly with academic matters in the across the United States and internationally. And now we see a wonderful opportunity to expand the society's reach into a much broader range of attention, which is part of what's happening with the Robert Frost Sesquicentennial, which is open to all. I'd like to call it a literary buffet.
Ooh,
we have
my attention.
And the great part about it is that it's 4.5 days of activities,
Wow.
and you and Drew and anybody else can come and select from the buffet, or you can attend all. We'd love to have you for everything, but you can select from the program what poet you'd like to hear, what workshop you'd like to be part of, whatever wherever your interest brings you, we want your attention. So the society's overall mission is still to perpetuate, to extend Frost's legacy, which really is not in danger in any way, we don't believe, but we want to make sure that people at all levels of age and education know Frost and come to love him in the way that people always have in this country.
Right, and it's March 20th to the 24th, correct?
Yes, March 20th, 24th. And it starts, as I say, it's a literal buffet, and it's all free, by the way. I should have pointed that out right away, because the folks who were good enough to fund the Sesquicentennial all insisted that their money go to assuring that the Sesquicentennial be free to all. So we have everything there for you.
That's why great.
We'll nourish your body. Well, we won't nourish your body so much as your heart and your mind.
Which nourishes the body.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I'm sure there'll be snacks somewhere. So that'll work.
Right.
Yeah.
So it starts on the Wednesday, the 20th, with a poetry reading in the evening by the great Allison Joseph, a poet who is a endowed professor of English at Southern Illinois University, but she is better known for her 8 books of poetry. She's just revered for her work. She has Confessions of a Barefaced Woman is one of her books, and she's won the John C. Zacharias First Book Award and a Ruth Lilly Fellowship Prize, which is a really big prize, as you know. And Allison will be reading from 7:30 to 9. Now, she's not just going to be reading her poems. She's going to be interacting with the audience. This is one of the big aspects of the Sesquicentennial that we think is really important. And I don't know if I can share a brief story about why I think that's important.
Of course you can.
Yes, please.
Absolutely. That's why we have you here.
When I was a young fellow, I was a student at a college in the Midwest in Dubuque, Iowa. And I became the co-editor of the Literary Quarterly on campus. And I had a mentor, a poet by the name of Raymond Roseleap, at whose feet I sat to learn poetry, to learn how to write poetry and appreciate poetry. And Raymond Roseleap was a friend of Paul Engel, the great head of the Iowa Writers' Workshop in Iowa City at the University of Iowa. And Paul Engel knew Robert Frost. I'm sorry to be stretching this out with so many names, but Engel invited Frost to come to the University of Iowa and read his poems and talk to a few of the students. And Engel invited Raymond Roseleap, the poet, and a couple of his writers, including myself, to meet Robert Frost in April of 1959. Now, Frost was 85 at the time. I'm 86 now, so I know how it feels to be 85. But Frost was a lion in winter, and he came into the room with his presence just blossomed in front of us, and he was very, very kind. And the point I'm wanting to make is that I sat at Robert Frost's feet and heard his poems. Wow. Directly from his mouth and with the expressions of his body and so on, and I was able to ask him questions. So it wasn't just listening to him; it was interacting with him, and that's the whole key to what we're trying to do here: is have people come and listen to the poets. These are 10 of the greatest poets in the United States. It's unbelievable that Bob Haas, the executive director of the society, was able to get them all brought together under one roof over these 4 days. But we want people to know that they can listen to the poet and then talk to them about their work, ask them questions about it. Which a great opportunity.
No, it is. Now, will people have to register? I know it's free, but just so there's not 4 million people coming to the library on the 20th, and then you got people, waiting down at Petco Park to hear the rest of it, for God's sake.
Well, absolutely. And I should have mentioned that before you did, Drew. But yes, what we do, you're so welcome to come, but we ask you to register on Eventbrite, and you just do that simply by tapping into robertfrost.org, the robertfrostsociety.org, and just tap into the Sesquicentennial, and it'll take you right to the registration. You don't have to pay anything. All we want to know is that you're coming. So.
Yeah, no, that's great. We're chatting with Jim Hurley. He's the treasurer of the Robert Frost Society, celebrating the Sesquicentennial. 1874. Frost was born. That is amazing. You got to meet the gentleman in Iowa. And by the way, a shout out. I know Jim's career follows my earlier career, journalism, and University of Iowa, and just known for its journalism. Actually, all the Big Ten schools are great in journalism in that aspect of it. I'll pick your brain on this after the show. I'm having you come back and talk about those experiences. The Sesquicentennial will be at the San Diego Central Library, March 20th to the 24th. It is free. Just signed up on Eventbrite. Drew Schlosberg, as you're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, and joined by my colleague Kristen Fogel. She is the executive director of San Diego Writers Inc. They're celebrating their 20th anniversary, not quite 150 years yet.
Not quite, not yet.
I know you got to leave in a few minutes here, but what other questions do you have for Jim?
I do. Well, I have to do a shout out to Patrick Stewart, who's the CEO of the San Diego Public Library Foundation and also the board president of San Diego Writers Inc. He's been talking about this event for, 2, 3, 4 years. I'm shocked it's here already.
Patrick is one of our champions, and this has been in the planning stages now for 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And Patrick was one of the first person to step on board, along with Misty Jones, the great director of the library down system. And Patrick's been behind it all the way. And the staff down there, it's beyond compare.
Yeah. They're amazing.
So it's Patrick's staff, the library staff, every single one of them has been active and enthusiastic and has their hand out. What can I do? There's a particular fellow, Matthew Nye, who's the curator of the special collections up at the beautiful 9th floor rare books room. And Patrick, and Matthew has put together a magnificent display of rare Frost manuscripts, books, signed documents, and so on. And that'll be up on the 9th floor for all to see. So it'll be a treasure in itself to see. But Patrick's behind all of this, and he has been a rock for us, no question of it.
That's great. I'm not surprised. What are you hoping this means to kind of the world of poetry and San Diego in particular?
Well, I think let's remember something that we forget. Frost is known usually for his New England character and his idioms, but Frost is a native of California. He was born in San Francisco and lived there until he was 10, nearly 11 years old, and then when his father died, his mother moved him back to the eastern seaboard. But in a way, this is a homecoming for Robert Frost. And Frost wrote many, many poems about the West Coast, about California particularly. I'm thinking of one called Once by the Pacific, which is a beautiful poem. And we don't think Frost traveled to San Diego. Wish we could say he did, but we don't think he did. But he traveled frequently to California and loved the state. And we think more in perhaps larger terms. We think that it's time that Frost resonated at in a much wider amplitude of the public, because I remember the day I met Frost in 1959. He met with a small group of us students and writers, and then he went off. He read his poems to us and talked to us, and then he went off and spoke to 4,000 people at the University of Iowa auditorium. So wouldn't we love to see thousands of people come out to listen to Frost and listen to poetry? And the Writers Inc. has done such a beautiful job. You know that I have some friends in the Writers Inc. group, and some of those gentlemen will be present at the Sesquicentennial as well. So all in all, we want to ensure a larger voice for Frost and for all poetry.
Yeah, there's no question. I know Kristen has to leave and get on to some board meeting where your colleagues will be at. I'll make sure that we share with her the rest of the interview as well. So when we come back from break, we're going to continue the conversation with Jim Hurley, treasurer of the Robert Frost Society, celebrating the Robert Frost Sesquicentennial. It'll be held March the 20th to 24th at the San Diego Central Library. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest running community podcast. We're now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union. continuing to do great things for us in San Diego. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for more than 60 years, doing wonderful things for folks living in San Diego County. Honored to have in the studio with us today Jim Hurley. He's the treasurer of the Robert Frost Society, celebrating the Robert Frost Sesquicentennial. It'll be held March 20th to the 24th in the San Diego Central Library, but it's going to start off at Park and Market. Talk about that.
There'll be the morning sessions will be at Park and Market, and a good example of that of one of those is the poetry workshop that'll be held from 9 to 10:30 at Park and Market. And this happens 3 days in a row. So the same poet will be holding the same workshop 3 days in a row, so that if there's not room one day, if you check on Eventbrite and there's not room one day, hopefully there'll be room another day. David Yezzi is a good example of the Park and Market venue. Drew, David will have a 3-day poetry writing workshop. He will bring participants in to read and discuss their poems and critique them. There are 12 poets each day that will come into this group. So if you're a poet that wants to hear David Yezzi's opinion of your work, it's best to get on Eventbrite now and schedule yourself in for one of these sessions. That'll also happen, as I said, on consecutive days, but that'll also happen with a great poet by the name of Carla Cordero, who will hold her sessions at the same time in a different room at Park and Market. Also featured in the morning at Park and Market is Bruce Weigel, who is an emeritus professor of English who has won the Lannan Literary Award, the Poets Prize from the Academy of American Poets, the Cleveland Arts Prize, and 2 Pushcart Prizes. These poets are really, really special singly, but taken together, it's almost a stunning collection of poets and writers coming to the Park and Market facility. And then later in the day, of course, we'll have featured events at the Central Library.
Right. Is there a website where people can see the lineup of speakers?
Yes, please do. The robertfrostsociety.org. robertfrostsociety.org. It'll take you right to the Sesquicentennial calendar of events, and you can, as we say, it's a literary buffet. You can pick whatever you want as long as there's room for you, but be sure you register, because some of these workshops and sessions are being oversubscribed right now. But don't take that as a yellow light. Get online and get in there and join us. We'd love to have you at all levels, whether you're a student or a professor or a lover of poetry from your early days, as I am. We want you to come and benefit from this broad and deep collection of poetry.
Yeah, and I also encourage those folks who are not students of poetry and have not gotten into poetry, and dip your toe into something you may not be familiar with and see if you get turned on by poetry.
That's exactly right, and that's what Frost was always talking about, the sense of sound, where he wanted to just listen to the sense of sound and try to pick up what the poet is saying. And Frost was self-consciously a poet for all people. He said when his first book called A Boy's Will was just being published, and he was brimming with confidence, and he said, I want to be a poet for all sorts and kinds. And that's sort of the spirit, Drew, of the Sesquicentennial. We want poetry to be available for all sorts and kinds, and we think that with people open their ears, I mean, this sounds like an old man talking, and maybe it is, but the volume is turned up too loud.
100%. And, listen, I think whenever you bring people together here, obviously that love poetry and maybe specifically Robert Frost poetry, it doesn't make a difference. You're just bringing people together just to listen and to share ideas, cultures, thoughts, and everything, behind it. And having you on right now, it just made all the sense in the world. You heard some great interviews right before you got on by this phenomenal father and daughter combination, and we had some iconic educators on earlier today, and so forth. This is what it's all about. Question for you, and again, the Robert Frost Sesquicentennial is going to be on the 20th through the 24th at the San Diego Central Library. Jim Hurley is the treasurer. I know you got a little piece of it as well. But you were a journalist, right? And which newspaper did you work for?
I worked for the Dubuque Telegraph-Herald.
Of course, it's a great paper. I worked for the San Diego Union Tribune.
Did you?
Yeah, I was on the dark side. I was on the business side, even though I was a sports writer a billion years ago. It's always fascinating when I see my brethren or sisterin that jump into this. Obviously, it's writing, of course. Certainly, you got turned on by your 1959 experience with Robert Frost. Had you been interested in poetry before that?
I had been. And by the way, let me add that my city editor at the Dubuque Telegraph-Herald was a man by the name of Mark Dollinger, who was the perfect caricature of a city editor of a newspaper. His tie was never done up.
Green eye shades, cigar chomping, and he had his bourbon inside the lower dress.
That's correct.
Yeah. So you and I grew up in the Royal Typewriter era. Oh, actually, you're a little bit older than me, even though you look 20 years younger than me. But the bottom line is we can all talk about all that aspect, and I think I'd love to have a conversation with you when you're done with the Sesquicentennial on those days. We know in journalism.
I would love it. I was nothing more than a intern for Mark Dollinger, but I still loved it. And I went on to write for NBC Radio.
I saw that
as a Navy person. I did the first interviews ever made from a nuclear submarine at sea for NBC's radio, so it was a real thrill. Those kinds of things that set you and I on our career path.
That's right. But it is so true. So I love to continue that conversation. So Jim, again, shout out where people can register. We want to encourage people to register for the event. Where do they go?
Go right to robertfrostsociety.org. robertfrostsociety.org. Very, very simple. Just tap right in there and then tap to the Sesquicentennial calendar of events. That'll take you to Eventbrite. You can pick from that buffet we're talking about of literary beauty that we're offering. I have to say, again, Drew, that the the folks that funded this venture, not only the bringing of the Robert Frost Society to the San Diego Central Library, but also the Sesquicentennial itself. These are people like that like Malin Burnham.
I saw Malin Roberta on the program. Absolutely. I love those guys. Yeah.
And Mary Wolshock and
the best
Mel Katz and
absolutely
the great Art Flaming. Art's a very close personal friend of mine, and fortunately I can count Malin as a friend and Mel too. So these people they were very, very firm about wanting this to be inclusive and as wide a appeal to the audience as possible.
Yeah, I'm going to try to make it when Malin and Roberta are down there. I think it's one of the days it's in the program as well. And,
it's on Friday.
Yeah,
right.
Malin's done a lot of work with one of the foundations I'm involved in, Classroom of the Future Foundation. And he's 96 years young or whatever it is. He's got another 96 more years in him, of course, as we all know. The guy is absolutely amazing for 75 different reasons on this. So I think that's terrific. Jim, just wishing you folks nothing but great success. Again, March 20th to the 24th, the Robert Frost Sesquicentennial. It's going to be at the Central Library, and there's a component at UCSD Park and Market. That's right down the street from the library, a stone's throw, actually. And just going to wish you nothing but great success. And, let's make sure we get you back on somewhere down the road and talk about, how the event went and other things that are floating around the Robert Frost Society.
I'd love to do it, and thank you, Drew, so much.
Yeah, my pleasure chatting with Jim Hurley, treasurer of the Robert Frost Society, celebrating their Robert Frost Sesquicentennial, again, March 20th to 24th, the Central Library and Park and Market. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast. We're now in our 20th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, just doing great things to build up all the cool things going on in San Diego County. Hope you enjoyed the show.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.